Welcome back to another video. Last week we talked about the recent 12 most traded players. Now, there are carryovers into this week, so I will look at the skill positions and talk about the 4 most recent traded players per position. Let's get right into it. Looking at the running backs, Jerome Ford, Raheem Mostert, and DeAndre Swift, those were the top running backs being traded, and those were covered in last week's video. So, Breece Hall, he's the 9th most traded running back. He's simply a buy. He is the top running back at 6.5 yards per carry with at least 30 carries this season. However, he only has 32 carries, so it's kind of easy to fit him into that threshold that we chose. However, when he is on the field, the New York Jets, they rank 10th in expected points added. Now, when Dalvin Cook is on the field, the Jets rank 32nd. Yes, 32nd. Simply put, he deserves more touches, and I'm optimistic this will happen moving forward. And, not to mention this week, they're going to play Denver defense, who has allowed at least 20 points to a running back in each week. Trade for Hall before his usage increases. Now, if you are enjoying the content, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more fantasy content. Moving on, we have another running back here, Rhamondre Stevenson, the 11th most traded. It was noted before week 4 in which Ezekiel Elliott, he would see kind of more reps than Stevenson. Fast forward, Stevenson, he had 17 opportunities, targets, and carries, while Elliott only had 9. However, this New England offense, it just does not look good. Stevenson is only averaging 2.7 yards per carry. So they have faced a tough, run defense this kind of schedule to start the season, so there could be light at the end of the tunnel. He only has 1 touchdown in the season, and his passing game utilization has just been non-existent over the last 3 weeks, despite having the 5th most routes run among running backs. So if you can get him cheap, I would look to acquire him, but I'm kind of unsure, if I would want to pay up when we are looking at that last 3 games he has played. Moving on, Alexander Mattison. Now, he is the 15th most traded running back. Cam Akers, he played his first game following being traded to Minnesota, and he immediately saw 7 opportunities, and he finished with 7 touches for 51 yards. But Mattison, he still had 18 opportunities. He had, 18 total touches and 98 yards. I just am unsure kind of what to do here with Mattison, but I guess I would recommend selling him. Cam Akers, he immediately took over red zone work. He just had over 50% snaps. Mattison, he did have just over 75% snaps, but that immediate usage for Akers, it just has me worried. It was just his first game. I would look to sell Mattison and kind of move to that more stable asset. Now, for the last trade running back, we are looking at Alvin Kamara. He is the 16th most traded running back. It's just his first week back following his suspension. He put up 13 receptions, but he only had 33 yards. He also tacked on 11 carries. The usage is immediate. Those yards will come. Now, potentially Kamara's receiving work, it kind of was due to Derek Carr at quarterback, playing through that injury. But, it might be hard to buy. I will suggest it following that first game when he had 24 touches, but, I'm at least going to try. So let's move on to some wide receivers now. Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, and A.J. Brown, they were the top 3 most traded wide receivers, and they were covered in last week's video. Great players. They're always going to be recommended buy, So let's look at a few here. Calvin Ridley, he is the 6th most traded wide receiver. And just kind of up front, I'm going to recommend selling him. He's coming off a touchdown in week 4, which saved that fantasy game and potential value. Following week 1, Ridley has done little to be excited about, while Christian Kirk has done a lot. So it's kind of fair to look at that box score stats and notice Ridley, he has been struggling, but it is also fair to notice during the game, there were a few missed connections for a big play between Lawrence and Ridley. However, over those last 3 weeks, Ridley, he has only been targeted 17 times compared to Kirk, who has been targeted 32 times. Now, Trevor Lawrence, he has also struggled this year, and that could be a factor for Ridley's underwhelming season so far. I still would look to sell Ridley off that week 4 touchdown and, pivot to a more stable asset. Next wide receiver up, Michael Pittman, the 7th most traded wide receiver. After 3 straight 10-target games, Pittman has had only 5 in his return with Anthony Richardson in week 4. So if you did watch last week's video, you would know I talked about him. I just also wanted to talk about him in this week, just in case if you missed that and why he is a sell. Michael Pittman, he benefited from Gardner Minshew, not Richardson, who exited week 1 halfway through after only giving Pittman a couple targets. Those 10, 11 target games came with Gardner Minshew. If you have a league mate who believes in Pittman, sell to them. If you can, sense a theme here, trade for that stable asset. Moving on here with wide receivers, Amari Cooper, he is the 11th most traded wide receiver. I would look to buy him following that measly 1 reception week 4 game. Over the last 4 games in this season, he has seen no less than 6 targets in a game. He previously had 2 7-reception games that went for over 90 yards. Fantasy football, it kind of, it may be reactionary, and I would look to find a league mate who is upset following that week 4 game. I am chasing the volume in this case and assuming the offense is going to get corrected during this bye week, which, it could be another variable a league mate would look to sell Cooper for a player to plug in this week since buys are starting. Moving on to the last wide receiver here, Zay Flowers. Now, he is the 12th most traded wide receiver. He's coming off his worst game of his rookie campaign, finishing with 3 receptions and 56 yards. That's still not too shabby, but I would look to buy Flowers. He has 2 10-target games under his belt, and he's on pace to have over 123 targets for his rookie season. He has yet to score a touchdown, which, it would boost fantasy points and probably that league mate being in love with the player. Zay Flowers, super flashy, but I would look to capitalize on buying the talent who has not necessarily been giving the immediate dopamine hit. Now, lastly, we will move on to tight ends. And, these may not be up, your alley, but long live the tight ends. I'll spare you any boring, obvious jokes here. Darren Waller is the 3rd most traded target tight end. Well, I was all in on Waller entering the season. However, through 4 games, we are simply disappointed. However, I guess I would look to acquire Waller. Now, this may seem like a dumb idea, but a league mate who paid up the price to draft him, this is when you could kind of swoop in and try to buy low. The Giants offense is simply struggling, and I would hope the reigning coach of the year finds a way to rally this team and get things corrected. Waller, he did have a 6 reception for 76-yard game so far in the season. He has a total of 23 targets through these 4 games. I would not trade for an expected return of the price that the league mate drafted for, but I would absolutely kick the tires to try and acquire him. Next up, Kyle Pitts, the 5th most traded tight end. This is another part 2 here. Similar concepts to Waller. I guess I need to recommend buying Pitts. However, through 4 games, Pitts is being kind of outplayed by Jonnu Smith. Unlike Waller, Pitts may not actually be the respective team's tight end 1. This is why the situation with Pitts and Waller, they're kind of not that similar. I would look to buy Pitts, but I am not seeking it out like Waller. Sure, if Pitts is a throw-in on a package, I'm not going to be upset. But, I guess Pitts is more considered a buy in a dynasty league. But, wow, I just was not expecting this 2023 season from him. Looking at a 3rd tight end here, we are looking at Evan Ingram, the 9th most traded tight end. We talked about Ridley above before, but Ingram, he has been a consistent factor in this Jaguar offense. He has seen 3 straight games with 8 targets and at least 6 receptions. If you can buy Ingram, that is a great thing. He has yet to find the end zone, but he has given at least 5 receptions in each game. He only has an average depth of target of 3.7 yards, yet he has turned that into having the 2nd most receiving yards among tight ends. Get Ingram on your team and just have that start and forget tight end. Now, the last tight end here, we are looking at Jake Ferguson, the 11th most traded tight end. He has 7 targets so far in 3 different games, 7, 14, 21, 3 games. Now, the last 2 weeks, he has 12 total receptions. He may be a waiver wire ad this week, but I would still look to try to acquire him in a trade if you missed out on him. Ferguson, he has yet to play a game over 75% snaps, yet he is let to have less than 4 targets in a game. His role seems to be expanding a little more deep down the field, too. Try and get him involved in a packaged deal. Thank you for watching today's video, where we broke down recently traded players at the running back, receiver, and tight end positions. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more fantasy content.